There's a high-profile legal case in Glasgow that I find encouraging for once. Usually, when I'm talking about justice in the UK, it's in the context of what I consider disproportionately weak sentences and out of touch judges and so on. This is actually a case where I feel the right outcome has been served. And unusually, the judge there was footage of the judge making a statement, I guess, in the Scottish system, because Scotland, for those who are outside the UK, Scotland and England have different legal systems. Um, so this is what the report says. Six jailed over Glasgow war zone gang feud. It's the BBC report. Six men who tried to turn Glasgow into a war zone in inverted commas during a feud with a rival gang have been jailed for a total of 104 years. The associates of the Lyons criminal family were found guilty of plotting attempts to kill five men linked to the rivals the Daniel family. Police said it was a miracle that no one had died in the violent attacks. The judge, Lord Mulholland, said the sophisticated plot was foiled by good old-fashioned detective work. Brian Ferguson, 37, Andrew Gallagher, 40, Robert Pickett, 53, Andrew Sinclair, 32, John Hardy, 35, and Peter Bain, 45, were found guilty of conspiracy to murder last month. Ferguson, Gallagher, and Hardy were each jailed for 20 years. Pickett was jailed for 16 years, Bain for 15 years, and Sinclair for 13 years and 3 months. Lord Mulholland, this was the presiding judge, told them, "You sought to turn Glasgow into a war zone with your feud. This is a civilised city which is based on the rule of law. There is no place for this type of conduct, retribution, or the law of the jungle." Actually, what he said was this is a civilised country. The men had targeted Robert Daniel, Thomas Billsland, Gary Petty, Ryan Fitzsimmons, and Stephen Daniel between June 2016 and September 2017 at locations in Glasgow, North Lanarkshire, Renfrewshire, and Manchester. Um, and the report goes on to say their attackers were tracked down during Operation Engagement, the latest investigation linked to the feud, which has been connected to dozens of tit-for-tat attacks, including a murder. The trial heard that victim Stephen Daniel knew Kevin Gerbil Carroll, who was shot dead in the car park of Asda, Rob Royston, which is a Glasgow suburb, in January 2010. The first murder trial, which later collapsed, heard that Carroll's killer, William Patterson, visited a member of the Lyon family in prison 2 days after the supermarket murder. The latest 14-week trial at the High Court in Glasgow, which was held amid tight security, focused on five attempted murders in 5 months. I'm not going to read the rest of the report, it's pretty lengthy, but you get the idea. This is gangland feuds, the sort of thing that you would see in a Taggart episode. 104 years, that is okay, it's combined, but it's still pretty lengthy by British standards in Scotland or England. Um, and I think that it's encouraging. I'm of the view that the only place where organised criminals belong is in jail. People might say, oh, but they only fight among themselves. That's a very naive viewpoint because it takes a naive assumption that they don't care if innocent people get hit in the crossfire. Glasgow's long had a notorious reputation as a tough city. Actually, knife crime has dropped in Glasgow. There's been a range of tactics that have approaches that have been successful. A combination of tough justice as well as preventative measures, as I understand it. I haven't studied this in depth, but this is what I gather. Um, so, whilst the city still has a reputation, I don't think it's as bad as it was in the 80s and 90s. But this judge hit the nail on the head. Civilized people shouldn't have to put up with criminal gang lords roaming around the streets trying to kill each other. You know, um, it just can't be acceptable in a civilized society. So I say it's definitely a good verdict. Give them humane treatment, give them exercise, give them food. They've had due process. I say it's a good outcome. I really believe that organized criminals across the country they need to be living in fear of the law. You know, we as a society are just far too permissive. I'm not talking about the average person, but I mean too often the establishment is too permissive of this mentality that crime is acceptable, that dangerous, damaging, destructive crime to society is acceptable. And like I say, these guys are not, by which I mean ganglords, are not above targeting innocent people. I mean, they may be at the graduated end of the crime scale, but they will have started off as mindless louts, as thugs, as petty thieves, until as a whole, in England and Wales and Northern Ireland as well, we start taking an absolute zero tolerance approach to crime. Then smug criminals are going to continue doing what they do. And we have a particular problem in this country with just mindless, yobbish behaviour, which you may think is further down the scale, but actually that can have a detrimental effect on quality of life. Because that sort of loutishness, taken on its own, may not seem like much, but built up over a period of time, and I've been through it, it can really, really have serious consequences. It can cause profound anxiety. It can cause profound mental anguish. It can make people feel like prisoners in their own homes. So, as a society, and I mean across this island, I really think that people need to stop making excuses for criminals, back the police, and I think other judges can learn from Lord Mulholland. He made the right call. I don't know much about this, Justice, but he made the right call with this. And you could tell by his voice that um, he personally felt moved by the case. I mean, this is just ruthless gangland warfare. So good outcome, but I just wish there was more like it.